something like that. So
yeah, I would think so. They did.
Here's a similar shot to what we talked about on our most recent episode. The hard cam is not eye level with the ring. Again, it's shooting down into it. I kind of dig this look.
It's a different look. It is unique. Again, as Mike Rotunda does some jumping jacks for us. I hate that dark ring. God, I hate
Shut the
that.
fuck up about it. It's awesome.
No, it doesn't reflect light. It doesn't brighten up. It just sucks light. It drains the light. It just, we'll be right back.
Hey, you love Lois and she's drained the light out of you for 20 something years.
Well, I can't argue with that, my friend. I can't argue with that at all. Coming up, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan.
How about the TV title here? Did you prefer it on the black strap or the red strap?
Red strap.
Red strap all day. By the way, let me just tell you, these are two working some bitches, but Lord bless them. The charisma, maybe not as much. What's your favorite Mike Rotunda promo?
Oh, I probably the one that we had a couple of weeks ago against Rick Steiner. Remember that one that we had where he continued to call his World Television Championship. Yeah, he was taught to do promos by J.J. Dillon, by the way, is what I've been told. Boy, Brad could work, though, man.
He really could.
Yeah.
I really wish that we would have been able to see him get a bigger push. What do you think the reason was that? I mean, we always hear it. You know, people talk about it. Either he has it or he doesn't have it, but you can't teach it. Just some people have it. Not everybody has it. And if you ain't got it, then, whatever.
Get it.
And I know some people say, well, Brad just didn't have it, but what the fuck is it? Like, he looks good. His work's great. What in your opinion are the intangibles that separates a guy from being quote unquote a good hand and really a top star?
Well, I think a lot of times it's timing, and I think it's a lot of, and this is probably saying the same thing, but being in the right place with the right booker at the right time. That maybe Brad Armstrong would have, if he would have had a shot with Vince, maybe Vince would have known what to do with him, because he wasn't a bad looking guy. I mean,
well, but he probably wasn't big enough. Now, don't get me wrong. He's not a little guy,
right?
But I mean, he's not Hercules Hernandez either. And that's really the look that Vince was looking for back in that time, which I know you said part of this is timing, but I can't help but wonder, do you think if Armstrong had gotten to be a top star anywhere other than Continental, like not just Continental, but somewhere else too, like had he been a big star in another territory, would that have allowed him more opportunities here? Do you think that because it was, I mean, we've never really talked about this, but do you think that certain promotions, whether it was Paul Bosch or Vince McMahon or Jim Crockett, whoever, Mike Graham, do you think they sort of thumb their nose at Continental a little bit? Like, oh, well, maybe you were a big star in Alabama, but.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. There really is.
Cause it feels like Bullet Bob, who was without question the top star in Continental.
Right.
And of course the father of Armstrong here, it feels like maybe he never got the proper respect. And I've always wondered, was that a Continental thing? Sort of like there is definitely, no matter what anybody says, there is a Memphis bias, and maybe it's more pronounced, the Memphis bias, but I think a Continental bias might exist too, because you never hear people really talk about Bullet Bob or give him the credit. It's almost as if, whatever they accomplished in Alabama or this territory wasn't of really any real significance.
Yeah, you never hear people talk much about Continental Wrestling. You hear them talk about Florida Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Memphis territory, but you never hear them really talk about Continental Wrestling, which is basically was Alabama, right?
Yeah.
But there's another thing too, and I talked about timing about Brad Armstrong. Don't you think if Brad Armstrong had been like 10 to 15 years younger, he would really fit in well with like Jushin Thunder Liger and Brian Pillman in the start of the Cruiserweight Championship?
Listen, do you know the words you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't think you do. I mean, when do you think that match happened, dude?
What match happened?
The match you're talking about. It happened 2.5 years after this. Liger Pillman was 2.5 years after this. It was February of 92. We're in September of 88. Okay.
How come he didn't get much of a push?
Right, I thought we were in 89. Either way though, the point is it's 3.5, it's a handful of years later.
Right.
It's not fucking 15 years later, which is just.
It seems weird. This seems like years after that.
I really thought for a minute we were watching 89, I guess because we did last week and I got excited.
Yeah. We're watching 88.
Yeah, September of 88. Well, that was February. I mean, I'm just guessing, but I think that was February 92 was that Super Brawl, that pay-per-view that people still talk about with Liger and Pillman. So it's just a handful of years later. But the thing to me is I think there's definitely a Southern bias in wrestling, where people, say wrestling and that's that Memphis bullshit. And I think there is a Memphis bias and I think there is a Continental bias, but nobody even talks about Continental.
Here's the one thing that I never did understand, and well, maybe I do understand it, but I didn't understand Vince's thinking on this. If there is so much of a Southern bias in wrestling, and when I worked in the WWF in '89, you can ask Bruce Pritchard this. Vince was really on me about my Southern drawl. We've talked about this. How come that he allowed JR with his Southern drawl to work it? Because JR was I ended up being the guy you remember with Southern wrestling. I understand, but JR was Southern, man. He sounded Southern, and here he was voicing over stuff from out of New York. How did that all happen? If there's a Southern bias,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the unanswered question, I guess. I don't know. I guess maybe he became a gimmick, right? The hat, JR, all that.
I mean, let's talk about this. Would you have done the cowboy hat gimmick?
Oh, to keep a job? Yeah, I'd have done anything. Sure.
I mean, well, you say that, but then you say, hey, they were going to put you in the Hall of Fame. And you're like, no, I'm not going in. By the way, I don't know if you heard, but it was announced last week that Torrie Wilson is going into the Hall of Fame. And I'm just guessing you support that wholeheartedly.
Yes, I do. Who's going to put it in? I'll put her in.
I'm sure there's a line of people volunteering.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm sure there is. That's great. Good for Torrie. That'll be.
The rumor and innuendo, of course, is that Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake may be next. Your thoughts on Beefer getting the nod?
Well, why not? Wasn't he, aside from his friendship of Hulk Hogan, wasn't he a big star at one time with them?
Oh, absolutely, he was.
So yeah, put him in.
What about Honky Tonk? Honky Tonk's been announced.
Honky Tonk, that one shocked me.
Really?
Yeah, that one shocked me. I had understood that at one time they wanted to put him in and he said no. Have you heard of that story?
Yes. And the reason I believe that happened is because they wanted to, if you accepted that, they paid you $5,000, gave you a class reunion ring or a high school, graduation ring. And then, made you sign a Legends deal where you had to run bookings through them and they could sell stuff with your likeness and merchandise and you were obligated to them and it wasn't for significant money. And I think Honky thought, well, fuck that, I ain't doing it. Well, apparently they've loosened up on that a little bit, or he's decided, shit, maybe if I do this, it'll be a boost to me in my bookings, which I know for sure has happened. When you're fresh off a Hall of Fame run, you can get a year or 2 years of an increased fee and more visibility and more bookings. And because people like to promote you as, WWE Hall of Famer, so-and-so.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons I'm trying to get you in, because, you'd start making more money and I can siphon off a bigger piece of your money,
Well, hey, if I can make more money and you can siphon off, it's fine with me. But
well, great. Then let's get a campaign going for Tony Schiavone in 2020.
That's not going to happen, Conrad.
No, I'm just saying, instead of us doing like a bullshit campaign shirt, like Bruce and I did back in 2016, we could do a bullshit Tony for the Hall of Fame 2020 shirt.
Oh. Okay, let's do it.
All right. So there you go. We're going to come up with a hashtag. Mm-hmm. Schiavone's a lot of letters and people are going to misspell it.
Mm-hmm.
What should we do? Hashtag butts and seats 2020.
Yeah. That.
Right.
Oh yeah. Make the Hall of Fame the greatest Hall of Fame in the history of the Hall of Fame. That's too many letters too, but, I don't know. We'll figure out something. We'll do a hashtag and figure out something.
Can I get a commitment from you now that if we are successful with our quest to get you in the Hall of Fame, mm-hmm. that you will wear a custom made dog hair jacket?
Yeah, if we get Lowe's to make one.
I don't have Lowe's. I mean, I can get a real seamstress to make a dog hair jacket. Now, if you won't wear the full jacket, which I get, could we do like a pocket square of dog hair?
Yeah, we got it, or a dog hair scarf.
Or you could just like reach in your pocket to pull out your notes and just pull out just gobs of dog hair.
Yeah. Dog hair has to be involved in it some way.
Absolutely.
So if this all works, I don't even know why I'm agreeing to this, but if this all works, you're going to be the one to induct me. Is that got to be it?
No, there's no chance they'll let me do that. They hate me. Haven't you read the internet lately?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. The internet says that they're punishing me and they hate me. They're
punishing. That's why they hired Bruce. It's to punish you.
Yes. Apparently. And this is from a prominent podcast and a friend of ours. When I booked The Undertaker.
Okay.
Vince decided to take it personally and said, "Oh, really? Well, look what I can do." And he booked, or he hired Bruce Pritchard.
Oh my God.
And I suspect that you're going to be next. They'll probably have you hosting stuff on the network and tell you that you can't do this anymore with me.
Yeah.
And then they'll probably go to Eric Bischoff and say, "Hey, remember that movie you wanted to make about Hardbody Harrison or, whatever other bullshit WCW talent there was? You can do it with our WWE Films division." And then he's gone. So, I'm having to reach because apparently they're coming for me. So I think my photo may even be up backstage and it says, "Do not allow this man entry." They did that to Scott Steiner a few years ago at the Hall of Fame. I was backstage at the Hall of Fame and saw the pictures.
Yikes.
Yeah. Apparently at the, this is allegedly, reportedly, he saw, Hulk Hogan's wife at the baggage claim and accosted her. And,
Scott Steiner did.
Yes. About how he was going to beat the shit out of her husband when he saw him, blah, blah, blah. Well, she was shook, called, Mr. Hogan, and then Hogan made sure that, he reported that to WWE and he was not welcome at the Hall of Fame. I don't reckon he was coming. He was there for WrestleCon, but whatever, just in case.
Wow. It's amazing business we're in. Jesus Christ. And at times it's a sad business that we're in.
Yeah.
And thank God we can sit and look at it from afar.
Well, I'm looking at it all the way from Huntsville, Alabama, where I've been, Googling, cocoons.
Don't start that shit again.
Well, no, here's the deal. Because if I get Tony Schiavone, Eric Bischoff, and Bruce Pritchard all into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm going to have 3 Hall of Famers in my goddamn pool. That's kind of cool, man.
And it next to, the Von Braun, Civic Center and the Redstone Arsenal. And I guess the tours that they take at the Rocket Center. This will be going to the Conradison to see the cocoons will be one of the must see places to see when you're in Huntsville. The Chamber of Commerce will want to be part of it.
By the way, when we're planning our low key big hog weekend, you were like, when are we going to the we're not going to the Conradison.
We're not?
No.
You're not going to let them do like a walkthrough?
What are you talking? A walkthrough?
Yeah. This is where Tony almost died. This is where I had my wedding and Tony didn't show up.
No.
Okay.
First of all, you don't even come to my house for weddings or whatever. And now we're going to whore out my house like it's a fucking Homes and Garden. What are you talking about?
There's a bedroom down here where Jay-Z and Chelsea, try to make babies.
No, he does that upstairs a lot.
Oh, okay.
How many babies you make? A lot. I do have a Brother Love Shack upstairs and a Flair suite downstairs.
A Brother Love Shack upstairs and a Flair suite downstairs.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're laying out all this and then you don't want to walk them through and say, this is the Conradison.
We're saying shack and suite. It's a fucking spare bedroom, bro.
Okay.
I think you've, people have bought into this silly hype that Flair used to do on the podcast. I'm not the, second richest man in Alabama or Huntsville or my zip code or my neighborhood. It's all rumor and innuendo. It's a gimmick. Like
what?
Rotunda didn't actually work for the Internal Revenue Service. It's just a gimmick.
Your house is a gimmick?
No, like, yeah, it's been overhyped a little bit.
Oh, no, it hasn't either.
Yes, it has.
No.
And as you know, Megan has de-wrestling the house a great deal. And I mean, it's like a family home now, you know, with a wife and 2 kids and 2 dogs. And
you're trying to make yourself believe that, but I don't.
I live in a modest home on a meager hill.
Okay.
And you've made it into something that it can't possibly live up to. And you're like, we're going to bring 400 motherfuckers through your house. Like, no, we're not having an open house. I'm not trying to sell my house. Why are we doing that? Well, people want to see where you shit. People want to see where you and Cassio drink beer. No, they don't. By the way, I did confirm Cassio will be hanging around Low-Key Big Hog weekend.
How about Jay-Z?
Nope. He's not a Low-Key Big Hog. Fuck him.
I want to see Chelsea though.
Listen, I invited them, but you know, they're probably not going to come. He's got chicken business or something.
Jesus Christ. Only thing he does. Look, he does. No, fuck. Anyway, I'm looking for it's coming up. I mean, we're not that far away.
Yeah. I mean, as we're talking now, it's this weekend.
It's this weekend. Absolutely.
And I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to it. You know, my last 3 or 4 weeks have just been hellish. I had New York and then shows. Where did I even go?
I know you went to Connecticut one time.
Yeah, I did go to Connecticut once, and I've been to Charlotte, and I've been to Indiana, and I've been to Chicago, and I've been to Cleveland. I mean, I've just been all over the place. So the idea that I get to actually stay home, I'm like, fucking, hey, this is awesome. And you saw some of the activities we got planned.
Oh my God.
It's going to be some good eating for these motherfuckers.
Yeah, you're not kidding. It's going to be some good eating. 1, 2, got to, especially if you fire up with the Conradus and that big old smoker of yours.
Shut the fuck up. Why are you still doing this?
I'm just throwing out suggestions. You know, you throw things up against the wall until they stick. That's
where would 40 people even hang out? I mean, I don't have space for 40 people.
Shit.
It's going to be cold outside, dude. I need, well, you could do it in the back. Yeah, it's going to be cold. Oh, look, Dr. Death is here. He's heard about the Low-Key Big Hog weekend. He wants in.
Yes, he does, buddy.
How about Kevin Sullivan on the outside, walking around in the black robe with the purple guts?
Doc got the fans fired up there, didn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yes, sir.
You know what JR's saying right now?
What?
Well, just guess.
All-time great All-American, Oklahoma, Sooner. One of the toughest men I know. Something like that.
You know, this is not a name, not a match with a lot of big names, but they are having a hell of a match here. We're 22 minutes in. They're still tearing it up.
Yes, they are. And nothing wrong with having a good match. Now, we need to just kind of set the record straight as far as the history of professional wrestling is concerned. This was September of 1989. The sale was, I don't know if the sale had been done by that time or was just about being done. It was the end of the run for Crockett's, and it was just about the beginning of Turner taking over here. Can you put this in perspective or in the timeline here?
I mean, I feel like you just did. I mean, this is, the end is near. You know, they knew that they weren't going to be able to make payroll and meet their obligations. And I think a lot of people probably wonder like what that was all about, but the backstory, and we've covered this extensively on the show, is that WrestleMania had sort of changed everything. And now guys looked at, you know, hey, look at the big payoffs that you can get from this. And in addition to that, they had things like merchandise, you know, they were on lunch boxes and they had cartoons and they had action figures and they had lots of other revenue opportunities besides just selling tickets to shows. And Jim Crockett Promotions was still very much just into that. So in order to compete, Dusty and the guys knew, hey, we could never we probably can't put together a pay-per-view that's as big as WrestleMania. So we'll beat them with sheer volume. We'll run 4 or 5 pay-per-views a year. And they sort of settle on quarterly events, starting with the Bunkhouse Stampede. And then, you know, we'll go from there. Well, of course, WWF sabotaged that
right
with a free Royal Rumble on USA Today. So when they ran WrestleMania, Jim Crockett responds with a free Clash of the Champions. This is the same year here, 1988. This is our third one. And the original idea behind Clash of the Champions is just, hey, let's do to them what they did to us. Let's hurt their paid show and put on a big free show on TV. And the reason they needed to develop these pay-per-views from a WCW standpoint was in order to pay the talent more. So we could guarantee you a bigger contract if you sign with us. So sure, you would make more money on that one pay-per-view if you go to them and work WrestleMania. And yes, you'll make money on dolls and posters and lunch boxes and cartoons. However, we're going to have 4 of those big pay-per-views. So when you add all that together, our contract value can be more. And besides, up there, he's just going to give you a handshake and opportunity. What we're going to do is we're going to give you an actual dollar figure for this number of dates. And we're going to push you on all these pay-per-views. And as a result, you'll make more money. So they started making these weekly or bi-weekly and sometimes monthly payments with the idea that whatever the deficiency was, they'd make it up at the end of the year on a balloon. For instance, and I'm just freestyling, let's say the Midnight Express were at $350 a year. They might only be making $2,000 a week, which is only a little over $100,000. But if they continue that pace for the entire year, at the end of the year, they owe the Midnight Express $250,000 in a balloon, the difference between the $350 and what they made. So here we are in September, and everybody's looking around thinking, well, goddamn, I thought I was going to make $350 this year and I've only made $80. We better be hitting some fucking licks these last few months, because I've got a giant balloon payment due. And they realized they couldn't make it. So as a result, they started to have conversations about, hey, what would this look like? And it happened. The verge of bankruptcy, November 1988, TBS would swoop in and purchase the majority interest in Jim Crockett Promotions for $9 million, which is a tremendous amount of money. And nobody knows that better than the Nature Boy.
Wow. What a story. $9 million. And of course, the Crockett still worked, except Francis, David, and Jimmy, and Jackie still worked for the company. I guess they had a minority share in it, right? At that time.
Well, I think they also just, it was probably part of the buyout where they all got jobs at X number of dollars for X number of years or something. But, you know, they all proved to be very worthy team members. How about, Flair here being one of the most critical parts of the sale? And this is not talked about very often, but allegedly Vince McMahon bought WCW for $2 million. And here TBS bought WCW for $9 million. When you really think about that it's 4.5 times more for Crockett versus WCW. Wow. Yeah.
So as you can tell by those numbers you're throwing out, from one end, TBS paying for, and for one end, TBS selling for, the TBS never had a good business plan when it came to wrestling, did they?
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think they definitely viewed it as, hey, it's a television property, and they thought they were purchasing a television property. Whereas WCW looked at it as, or the WWE looked at it as, we're buying the library. And at that time, they didn't have really a distribution concept for what it would be. I mean, this is years before WWE On Demand or 24/7 On Demand was a thing, and obviously way before the network. So either way, it's an interesting, deep dive into what if and what could have been. And, Nature Boy was really, really upset for a long time with the Crockett's, not David so much as Jim, because he felt like no one smartened him up about extending the contract, because allegedly Ted Turner wouldn't have bought WCW had he not known that when he did, he got the rights to Ric Flair. And had Rick known that he was the thing that Ted valued the most, he could have perhaps had a bigger contract value, which really wouldn't have cost Jim Crockett a dime. Yes, it would have cost Ted more, because Ted would have been the one obligated to make payments to Rick. But, Jim didn't do that, maybe because he thought it was going to affect the amount of money that he got, or whatever reason. And, Flair was pretty hot about it for a long time, and still talks about it occasionally now, that he feels like it was something that they could have or should have done for him that they did not do.
I can see his point. I really can. The Nature Boy Ric Flair we're watching right now talking to me. It's just a couple of real good pals talking here, as you can tell. that really love each other. But Ric Flair is not Ric Flair unless he's doing his Ric Flair promo. And I thought it, and I even going back and watching it, and I thought at that time it was just great for me to be able to step aside of him and talk to him. But unless he's being Ric Flair style and profiling, it's really kind of out of place, don't you think?
I wonder if he's very calmly talking to you about Blue Chew right there.
Can you imagine what the baby's arm would have looked like with Blue Chew?
I mean, I've never seen it. I don't want to see it.
Oh, come on. Everybody has seen it.
No, I haven't seen it. Why would you say that I've seen it?
Because everybody has seen it.
No, that's not true. You have to appreciate when I met him, he was 64.
64 not. Blue Chew will make the baby's arm look like baby's leg. Look at that fucking redneck.
These are your fans.